this is framed as a story of revenge by a man who has to be the closest thing to the devil. It seems that it was the act of killing and the sick enjoyment of feeding them to others that really gave him his cheap thrills.
Ugh. What it is, guys? It's your boy Blasphemous HD. His first video is called He Sold Human Hamburgers, the case of Joe Metheny. Let's do this.
Welcome back to Twisted Minds. My name's James, and today we'll be deep diving into the case of Joe Metheny. We've all been there, feeling incredibly hungry and opting to eat at a questionable place, only to then feel paranoia about the after effects of eating there. Well, after hearing the story of Joe Metheny, you may never eat fast food again, especially at roadside joints. Oftentimes, those who claim the lives of others manage to get away with their crimes for some time because they appear normal, without any telltale signs. If only they all wore t-shirts saying, "Hey, I'll take your life." The world would have far fewer murder victims, and we would have fewer videos. When it comes to the appearance of Joe Metheny, it would be easy to assume he is pure evil. And once you hear his story, there will be no doubt about how true that assumption is.
Huh? Bro, this nigga look like...
Joe Metheny was born on March 2nd, 1953 in Maryland, and was part of a large family of 6. Metheny's father had extremely bad alcoholism, while his mother was rarely around due to her heroin addiction.
Oh.
Not exactly the Brady Bunch, right?
Damn, alcohol and heroin? I thought I had it rough. Shit.
At the age of 6, Metheny lost his father in a car accident.
Oh.
According to his account, he spent his childhood changing foster homes one after another.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy. I went to some pretty good foster homes though, man. They were pretty good people.
He became a heroin and cocaine addict, a chip off the old block. His mother said that he had served in Germany during 1973, although the killer claimed he had also fought in the Vietnam War. After returning from his time in the military, he turned back on the rest of his family and became homeless instead.
Oh.
This resulted in his drug addiction getting worse and his life spiraling even further out of control. Metheny was given the nickname Tiny, which was a joke.
Bruh, it's weird, man. With a face like that, he looked like he had to do some wild shit as a homeless person.
Joke on the fact that he was 6'1" and extremely overweight. He liked to hang out at bars and live with homeless people in makeshift camps in South Baltimore.
Out there
Any
sucking
money he
dick
made
for
from
money.
his forklift driver job was spent on heroin, crack cocaine, and Southern Comfort, also known as the Charlie Sheen diet.
Yo, that's actually fucking funny. The Charlie Sheen diet. Cocaine and homeless people. Ha ha.
Marrying, having a child, and buying a trailer for the whole family to live in. Well, they do say history tends to repeat itself, and in the case of Metheny, that was the truth. His wife eventually became a drug addict, and one day after returning home, he found his house completely empty, right down to the furnishings. According to a later account, Metheny's wife had met another man who took both mother and child in to live a new life.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Gossip eventually reached Metheny, claiming that the other man didn't have good intentions when taking the two in.
What?
With Metheny's wife becoming a prostitute to fund the drug habits of the new couple. Eventually, custody of the child was lost, as the addicts ended up living under a bridge along with other homeless people.
Oh.
This news infuriated Metheny, who sought to find his wife. He quickly packed up his truck and set out to track down the new lovers.
Nigga.
Now, nobody really knows if his intentions were to get revenge or save her.
Ooh.
But after hearing the grisly details of what this beast did in his campaign to find...
Oh, my bad. I read the bottom text. I thought it said he cut off her breasts and beat the other man to death with it, bro. That's wild. That's my brain just being like, damn, that's what, he probably should do. But honestly, nah, man. If your meth addict wife leaves you, just go find a different female. It is far easier to find a new hole than to try to fix things with an old hole.
Find her.
Gonna edit that out.
Helping is definitely not a personality trait of this beast.
Huh?
After getting information about the whereabouts of his wife, Metheny set out to find her. He learned that his wife and her new guy had been going under a bridge to get high. Metheny visited the location, but they were nowhere to be seen.
No.
After seeing the horrific conditions and the smelly mattresses his wife had no doubt slept on, he got high with two men, Randy Piker and Randall Brewer, before brutally murdering them and, in his own words, chopping them up. He later approached a prostitute that knew his wife and got her high. He tried to get information on her location, but the prostitute wasn't giving any answers. Frustrated, he essayed her before strangling her to death and tossing her body into a nearby bush.
Damn.
After the first failure, he
Did you say essayed? What essayed? Oh, assaulted her. Ooh. Ugh.
to a nearby bush. After the first failure, he lured another woman, which ended exactly the same. After killing the second woman, Metheny just happened to notice a fisherman nearby. Worried that the man saw everything, he approached him and smashed a steel pipe down onto his head,
Damn.
killing him instantly. He later buried the heads of the two homeless men, tied bricks to one of the prostitutes and the fisherman, and
Bruh, I swear to God, when I saw the P and all of these signs above it, I thought that it said that Bethany tied bricks to one of their vaginas and threw her into the river. I was like, God damn!
the heads of the two homeless men, tied bricks to one of the prostitutes and the fisherman,
Hard.
and put them both in the river, and then left the first victim in the bush. Even for the most prophilic killers, this is a crazy body count for their first time. In fact, during a police interview, Metheny said it was a very busy night. 5 murders within about 7 hours.
Damn.
Some killers dip their toes in the murky waters of taking lives, but when it came to Metheny, he took a run-up and belly flopped right in there. And what a splash the 450-pound man made. Another disturbing detail that later came up during his confessions was after the murder of a woman named Catherine Magaziner, he cut off her head and buried it separately from the rest of her body. 6 months later, Metheny dug up the decomposing head, washed out the maggots and dirt, and did the unthinkable with it.
What?
It's clear that Metheny didn't see his victims as humans. Maybe he saw women with addictions as lesser humans who deserved to be extinguished.
What?
2 weeks later, Metheny was arrested for the murders of Randy Piker and Randall Brewer and spent 18 months in prison. In what turned out to be one of the worst decisions in Baltimore history, the killer was set free due to a lack of physical evidence. This is where things get even more messed up, with Metheny turning his sights
But in a
from
good
finding
way.
his wife to having fun, killing, and earning money. How can killing people make good money? Well, it turns out that with the right set of herbs, spices, even murdered people can taste better than a Big Mac.
What?
Dehumanizing is a theme that Metheny continued to show as he moved into the next sickening stage of his life, which led to him committing acts that would send the health department into absolute chaos.
What?
After being freed from prison, Metheny was free to act upon his fantasies cooked up during his time behind bars. He asked his old boss for a job at the pallet company he had worked for previously as a forklift driver. He even convinced him to let him stay in a trailer on the ground so that he could guard the business at night. The boss agreed, and Metheny was left alone in an isolated yard on a dead-end road, the perfect setup for a serial killer. Metheny managed to lure 2 sex workers to his home by using his tried and tested bait, drugs. He essayed them, strangled, and cut them up. He then put parts of their flesh in Tupperware bowls and froze them for later. He then buried the rest of the remains in shallow graves near his home. After eating some of the meat, Metheny came up with the idea to open his own roadside open pit roast beef sandwich stand, which should have been closed for false advertising as the meat was mixed with that of the murdered girls.
What?
I mean, it should have been closed down because this psycho was tricking people into eating human burgers too.
Let's look on the bright side. At least they weren't Philly cheesesteaks, because even I'd have fallen for that shit.
According to Metheny, the human meat tastes extremely similar to pork, which made it easy to disguise his beef and pork burgers.
Terrible.
He continued his fast food business for weeks, and eventually the
Terrible.
special meat ran out. Yes, that is actually what he called it.
What?
That was human meat.
Trying to restock his freezer, Metheny lured and killed 23-year-old Kimberly Lynn Spicer by stabbing her with a knife and leaving her in the grounds of the pellet business. On December 8, 1996, he asked his friend, Rita Kemper, to come over to take cocaine. After she turned him down for sex, Metheny began tearing at her clothes and laughing while the girl screamed. Enjoying the fear in her eyes, the killer told her that he was going to kill her and bury her in the woods just like the other girls. Luckily, Metheny dropped the ball and Rita managed to run out of the trailer and scale a pile of pallets, leaping over the barbed wire fence of the yard. In an ironic twist of fate, it was the same 6-foot frame and 450-pound frame that could easily overpower his often drugged victims that let him down, making him too slow to keep up with Rita. Metheny watched as a pickup truck let the terrified woman in and drive away into the night. In panic mode, Metheny picked up Rita's clothing and left them outside the gate. He then made a call to his friend and asked him if he would help bury the body of Kimberly Lynn Spicer, who was still on the grounds of the business.
Tell me his friend didn't say yes. Nigga!
On December 15th, the police turned up to arrest Metheny, the same day that his friend made a call to tell them about the request to bury the body. This marked the end of Metheny's reign of sickening terror, and no doubt the start of a statewide diet, after being pulled off burgers for life. The owner of the pallet business was also charged as an accessory to the murder and attempted murder cases, as he tried to dispose of evidence to help protect his friend, himself, and his business. In interviews, Metheny attempted to killing 10 people, although his lawyer tried to discredit his client by saying that his mental health, ravaged by drugs, was affecting his memory. During a retelling of his story, Metheny said, "The only thing I feel bad about in any of this is that I didn't get to murder the 2 motherfuckers I was really after. And that's my ex-old lady and the bastard she got hooked up with." Although this is framed as a story of revenge by a man who has to be the closest thing to the devil, it seems that it was the act of killing and the sick enjoyment of feeding them to others that really gave him his cheap thrills.
Ugh! What type of sick shit? Ew!
Joe asked the court to give him the death sentence and added the words, "I'm sorry, will never come out," for they would be a lie. "I am more than willing to give up my life for what I have done, to have God judge me and send me to hell for eternity." When asked why he did the foul acts, he simply answered, "I enjoyed it." In the Kemper case, he was sentenced to 50 years for and kidnapping. In 1998, Metheny got his wish and was sentenced to death. Later that year, he pleaded guilty to murder and robbing Magaziner, with prosecutors trying to get the death sentence for that case also, just to make sure he got his time in the chair. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, with the death sentence being overturned in 2000, and the sentence for the murder of Spicer being reduced to life without parole. This case is riddled with poor decisions from law enforcement throughout, but many believe that not giving this creature the death sentence was the biggest injustice of them all. Regardless, Metheny met his maker while staring at the 4 walls of his cell. In 2017, Joe Metheny was discovered dead in his cell in the Western Correctional Institute in Cumberland, Maryland, at the age of 62. The cause of death was officially ruled as natural, which a life of being morbidly obese and addicted to drugs can do to you.
Damn!
Whatever this beast ends up in death, let's just hope that they have a strictly vegan diet. Now, that would be pure hell for this evil burger-munching monster.
Oh God, my arms.
It's almost unimaginable to try and think about how the victims of this monster felt. Being overwhelmed by his ginormous frame, tormented by his cruel nature, and violently butchered by his strong hands. We have covered a number of vile murderers on this channel, but this one definitely stands out as one of the absolute worst. I mean, can you imagine this guy coming toward you? Absolutely terrifying.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like it, or subscribe. Twisms!